You can use the 3-second rule to keep a good enough distance to the car in front of you. Find a focus point as the car in front passes by, such as a lamppost, and start counting slowly. 1001, 1002, 1003. If you can count that far before you even pass the lamppost, you are at least 3 seconds behind the car. The most important thing is not how accurate you count, but that you feel that there is enough space between you and other road users. This should give you time to react if something unexpected happens in front of you. Most modern cars have an anti-lock braking system, and it allows you to brake fully and still steer the car. When ABS is not working, the wheels of the car will lock when braking hard, and you will not be able to steer away from the obstacle. ABS works like this. Each wheel has a sensor that continually registers the wheel's speed, and it senses if a wheel is about to lock and skid across the surface. The system releases the brakes for a fraction of a second, then applies them again. This system thus allows you to brake as hard as you can without ever locking the wheels and allowing you to steer simultaneously. As the first person at the scene of an accident, it is your obligation to help. Stop a little distance from the accident and put on your reflective vest. Start securing the scene by placing the warning triangle strategically. Use your car as an obstruction if possible. Get an overview of the scene of the accident. Who is injured and who needs to be tended to first? If there are other people there, take charge and delegate tasks. Call the emergency telephone number 113. Tell them who is calling, what has happened, and where you're calling from. If necessary, you should now start administering first aid. Calculating braking distance is something a lot of people dread, but relax, because it is actually rather simple when you know how. In these tests, you are usually provided with a car's speed and the braking distance. Your job is to calculate what the distance becomes at other speeds. A car that drives twice as fast gets 4 times the braking distance. A car that drives 3 times as fast gets 9 times the braking distance. And a car that drives 4 times as fast gets 16 times the braking distance. With a Category B driving license, you are allowed to drive a car with a maximum authorized mass not exceeding 3,500 kilos. You can tow a trailer with a maximum authorized mass not exceeding 750 kilos with this car. This brings the total up to 4,250 kilos. You are actually allowed to pull a heavier trailer, as long as the combined weight don't exceed 3,500 kilos. So let's say that this car has a maximum authorized mass of 1,000 kilos. This means that the trailer can weigh as much as 2,500 kilos. This is known as the camper rule, but it applies to all kinds of trailers. Now let's take a closer look at how the speed you maintain affects the length of the overtaking distance. Oh, here Grandma is driving at 60 kilometers an hour in an 80 zone. And you want to overtake at the first opportunity. But is it really important if you overtake at 70 or 80? Well, it actually is. Because if you overtake at 80, you're driving 20 kilometers an hour faster than Grandma and need 200 meters for the overtaking. But if you overtake at 70, you're only driving 20 kilometers an hour faster than Grandma, and therefore need a whole 400 meters for the overtaking. That's twice as long in the opposite lane, so make sure to maintain a good but legal speed when you are going to perform an overtaking. Cooperation is essential for the flow of traffic, and your ability to cooperate is one of the things your driving examiner will look for. Are you able to read others in traffic? And is your driving predictable? Failing to cooperate successfully in traffic can quickly ruin the mood. Isn't it annoying when someone takes up both lanes with their vehicle, blocking your passage? And isn't it irritating when others fail to turn on the indicator to show where they are going, and you fail to move just because you held back? But do you know what? Relax, everybody makes mistakes. Concentrate on your own contribution to the traffic. You could, for example, let the bus waiting to enter the rush traffic to no avail go before you. As you are approaching a motorway, you always have to adjust your speed so that you can enter without disrupting the traffic flow unnecessarily. In this situation, you should enter behind the car on your left. When merging like this, the drivers have to decide who should go first, and the right-of-way is mutual, so if you're the car on the motorway should hold back. Good cooperation like this facilitates a safe and efficient movement of traffic. When you are exiting a motorway, you should maintain your speed until you have completely entered the deceleration lane.
There are many places where you're not allowed to stop. And if you can't stop there, you certainly can't park there either. Let's go through the rules for stopping and parking. Never stop in places where the line of sight is poor, like hilltops, tunnels, or in blind curves. You might surprise other road users and cause dangerous situations. Don't stop your car in places intended for other road users, like the pavement, footpaths, cycle tracks, or in the public transport lane. Avoid stopping closer than 5 meters to junctions, level crossings, and pedestrian crossings, unless you have to stop for traffic. Don't stop any closer than 20 meters to a bus stop, unless you are dropping off a passenger. And never ever make a stop on motorways and motor vehicle roads. The same goes for entrance and exit ramps for these roads. It is dangerous. Parking is also obviously prohibited in these places. In addition, you should avoid leaving your car in front of property exits, passing places on narrow roads, in pedestrian zones, or in home zones. And you can't park your car on priority roads if the speed limit exceeds 50 kilometers per hour. Electric, diesel, or petrol? In any regard, driving is a burden on the environment. And the ever-increasing prices on power and petrol makes it an expensive endeavor. But, there are certain things you can do to help protect both the environment and your wallet. And the best way is by conserving energy. In other words, using as little energy as possible. This is how you do it. Make sure that the car is in good condition, and that everything is working as it should. If you have too little air in your tires, they will have increased rolling resistance, and the car will use more energy to roll. An unused roof box is a waste of energy. The same goes for stuff you don't need lying around in your car, making it unnecessarily heavy. Predict and adapt to the traffic flow, as this helps you maintaining a steady speed. Constantly stopping and accelerating is an energy thief, so try your best to avoid this. If you don't need it, turn it off. Unnecessary use of, for example, air conditioning, heating wires and fog lights is simply a waste of energy. And if you are waiting in your car, turn it off. Idling is polluting. A little planning never hurt anybody. Choose the smartest route. The one without traffic jam and detours. Not going very far? You might as well walk. This will save both the environment and your wallet.
The car's driver assistance systems are designed to make your everyday driving easier and safer. To varying degrees, these systems alert you to traffic situations and hazards, and some will step in and take over parts of the driving when necessary. But remember this: you still have 100% responsibility for driving. It's no good blaming the blind spot monitor if it didn't work when changing lanes and you end up crashing into the side of another vehicle. And you get the ticket if the speed limit alert reads the speed limit incorrectly and causes you to drive at 80 kilometers per hour in a 60 zone. That's why it's so important to familiarize yourself with how exactly your car works. What does it help you with? How can you notice it? And what can it not do? And can you turn some of these driver assistance systems on or off? You need to know that too, because you are the driver.
Your eyes don't work all that great in the dark. When you go from daylight to darkness, your eyes will need up to 30 minutes to adjust optimally. The other way around, from darkness to daylight, is much quicker. It takes no more than 30 seconds. Your car's headlights help you see in the dark, but you're also dependent on the visibility of others. And that is determined by their surface or clothing. Dark clothing is almost impossible to spot in the darkness of an autumn evening. Light clothing can be seen from further away, and reflective items can be seen from more than 100 meters away. Sometimes there is just too much light. If you or oncoming traffic forget to turn the headlights in time, you might end up blinding each other. And that can be dangerous. As you are approaching a priority road, you should check to the left early on to see if the coast is clear. In this case, you are going to turn right in the upcoming junction, so you should signal, reduce speed, position the car, and get ready to go. But since this is a priority road, you need to check to the right as well before you go. There is a slight chance that there are cars in both lanes, since overtaking in a junction is allowed when you are driving on a priority road. Forget to check, and this might happen. As the first person at the scene of an accident, you must act quickly. It can save lives. Start by calling 113, and if necessary, secure the place to avoid any more accidents. And remember, mind your own safety at all times. Now, you need to check the condition of the injured person. Shake gently and try to make contact. If you don't get any response, the person is unconscious, and you need to check the breathing. Gently pull the head back, lift the chin, bend close, and listen. Keep an eye on the chest. Does it rise and fall? Observe for at least 10 seconds. If the breathing seems normal, secure the person in a side-lying position. The person should not be able to roll over on the stomach or the back by accident. Make sure that the head is pulled slightly back so that the airways are unobstructed. Keep watching the breathing for a while. If the breathing at some point sounds labored, gasping, or abnormal, it may be signs of cardiac arrest, and you have to start CPR. For additional support, you should turn on the speaker on your phone, and you will receive assistance from 113. Now, hit the injured person on their back on a flat, hard surface and lie down on your knees next to the person. Keep your arms straight and place your hands on top of each other on the sternum. Use the weight of your upper body and press down quite hard, about 5 centimeters, and release quickly. Perform 30 compressions in quick succession while counting out loud. Like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. After 30 compressions, you give 2 breaths. Bend the person's head slightly back and pull the chin forward so the person has free airways. Pinch the nose, and with mouth to mouth you blow for 1 second. And you continue alternating like this: 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 compressions, 2 breaths, until medical personnel arrives or the condition improves. When 2 cars meet in the dark night, when should they switch off their full beam headlights? Quite a few people wonder about just that. Let's go for a little late night drive. It's dark along the country road and car A is driving with full beam headlights on. Far off, car B approaches, also with full beam headlights on. When the cars are between 200 and 300 meters apart, it's time for both to turn off their full beam headlights. Now, if both switch off before this, parts of the road between them darken, and if they switch later, they dazzle each other. As the cars are about 2 car lengths apart, they should turn their full beam headlights back on. It is important that both cars also adjust their speed to how far they can see. When you turn off the full beam headlights, you should slow down a bit to compensate for the reduced sight distance. When you are about to overtake a vehicle at night, at some point you have to switch off your full beam headlights so as not to dazzle the driver in front of you. But when should you switch? Car A is driving with its full beam headlights on. A little further ahead, tractor T is driving at a slow speed. When the car's high beams hit the tractor, the car must switch off its full beam headlights to avoid dazzling the driver of the tractor in front. The tractor keeps its full beam headlights on. The road ahead is clear and car A begins to overtake. As the car is about 2 car lengths behind, it should switch the full beam headlights on, while the tractor waits to switch off its full beam headlights until the car is returning to the right lane. The aim is for you both to keep as much of the road illuminated as well as possible, without dazzling each other.
Giving way is when you have to let someone else go ahead in traffic. Indicating your intention to give way ensures good cooperation and contributes to a smooth traffic flow. In this scenario, the red car gives way to the white car due to the right-hand rule. If the red car tries to turn left, here, it would disrupt the oncoming car and the obligation to give way would be violated. Therefore, the red car must stop and wait until it is clear to turn. Here, the red car intends to turn right at the crossroad and must give way to both the cyclist and the pedestrian. As you can see, giving way is about not obstructing other road users. You must also give way when exiting a gas station, parking lot, or similar places, to a bus signaling to re-enter the road when the speed limit is 60 km/h or lower, when crossing a bicycle path, walkway, or sidewalk, when passing in the opposite lane, or when changing lanes in the same direction.
In an intersection, you always have to give way to the tram, both from the right and left. Unless the tram has to stop because of a give-way sign. Then the tram must stop for crossing traffic. That is also why the tram must give way heading into a roundabout because of the give-way sign. But as soon as the tram is in the roundabout and on its way out, the other road users must give way to the tram. So pay attention. The car increases speed and drives 90 kilometers an hour. What is the reaction distance now? 90 kilometers an hour is 1.5 times as fast. So let us multiply the reaction distance from the last example with 1.5. This gives us the reaction distance, which is 50 meters. The car going 60 kilometers per hour has a braking distance of 18 meters. How much does this increase if speed increases to 90? We've already calculated that 90 is 1.5 times faster than 60. By multiplying the increase in speed, which is 1.5, with itself, we find the square, which is 2.25. Then we multiply the braking distance from 60 kilometers per hour with 2.25 and find the braking distance in 90. And that is 40.5 meters. Some people think questions regarding braking distances are difficult. But relax, once you know how, it'll be easy peasy. Let's begin by stating an important fact. You don't need to memorize a long list of braking distances for different speeds. In these questions, you will always be given this information as a starting point. For instance, a question might state that at 40 kilometers per hour, you have a braking distance of 8 meters. The skill you need is to use this information given in the text to calculate what the braking distance will be if the car changes speed. Let's take it step by step. We start with the formula. Start by taking the new speed and divide this by the old speed. This will give you the speed difference. Then multiply speed difference by itself. For example, if a car is traveling at 40 kilometers per hour with a braking distance of 8 meters, to find the braking distance at 80 kilometers per hour, you divide 80 by the old speed, which was 40 kilometers per hour, giving you 2. Multiply the result by itself. That gives you 4. Then multiply the braking distance of the original speed, which was 8 meters, by 4. Therefore, the braking distance at 80 kilometers per hour is 32 meters.
Can this formula also be used to calculate braking distance at lower speeds? What will be the braking distance if the car is traveling at 25 kilometers per hour, for example?
Why yes, you can indeed. Let's see. Take 25 and divide by 40. With a little help from a calculator, you find that the result is approximately 0.625, which we multiply by itself. This gives us roughly 0.39. We then multiply the braking distance from traveling at 40 kilometers per hour, which is 8 meters, by 0.39. This gives a result of 3.12 meters. Therefore, if the car reduces its speed to 25 kilometers per hour, the braking distance will be 3.12 meters, which might seem a little short, but you can always use this formula to calculate changes in braking distance. It's much smarter than trying to guess what the correct answer will be. In some of our questions, you will need to calculate how far you move in a few seconds. There are many formulas to calculate this, but you know what? Forget them. All you need to remember is the number 3.6 and have a calculator handy to ensure you get the correct result. This car is moving at 50 kilometers per hour. If you divide the speed by 3.6, you get roughly 13.9. Therefore, the car is moving approximately 13.9 meters per second. If you're driving at 110 kilometers per hour on a motorway, you are moving around 30.6 meters per second. If you need to calculate how far the car moves in 3 seconds at 110 kilometers per hour, all you need to do is to multiply your answer by 3. Hence, 30.6 meters times 3 equals 91.8 meters. But how far would you go in half a second at that speed? Well, 30.6 meters times 0.5 equals 15.3 meters. So remember, next time you get a task that asks you how far you can go at a certain speed, divide by 3.6.
1 in 3 fatal traffic accidents are caused by inattention. That's a lot, and many of the accidents could have been avoided. But you're not inattentive in traffic, are you? Surveys show that almost 8 out of 10 drivers think they themselves are not inattentive. Strangely, nearly as many say they experience that other drivers are occasionally inattentive. But that doesn't quite add up now, does it? Or perhaps people are simply unaware of their own inattention. There are many things that can make us inattentive in traffic. Some of them are quite obvious, like fiddling with a mobile phone or searching for keys in your bag while driving. Most people understand that can be very dangerous. Operating various functions in the car, such as entering a destination on the GPS or adjusting the temperature and ventilation, also contributes to inattention. You have to take your eyes off the traffic to see what your hands are doing. All these things should actually be done before you drive. You can also be inattentive with your gaze fixed on the traffic. Maybe you're in a heated discussion with one of your passengers. Or perhaps you're daydreaming about that 2-week vacation to Mexico. Unfortunately, we humans are not great at multitasking. When our thoughts are somewhere else than on the road, we become inattentive. And a lot can happen while you're not paying attention. In 3 seconds, you travel almost 100 meters on a fast highway. That means you drive from here to there, without noticing what's happening in front of you. And a lot can happen in 100 meters. So do everyone a favor and pay attention.
For the last 15 years, Statens Vegvesen have analysed all fatal traffic accidents in Norway. 1 out of 4 was caused by intoxication. The age segment 41 to 50 years old is the dominant segment, and they are mostly male. Alcohol is the #1 substance used in Norway and in the rest of the world. Alcohol severely afflicts your faculties and your judgment in traffic. Alcohol was the sole substance used in almost 50% of the accidents with fatal outcomes.
What is the difference between roadworthy and in accordance with regulation? A car that is in accordance with regulation is always roadworthy. However, a car that is roadworthy may not necessarily be in accordance with regulation, as you can see here. If one of the lights stop working during the day, the car is no longer in accordance with regulation, because according to the regulations the car's lights should be on while driving. But it's daytime, and visibility is good, so it's not unsafe to continue driving. The car is still in a roadworthy condition. until it gets dark. Now you're somewhat hard to observe, and suddenly it's a bit dangerous to drive this car. It's no longer roadworthy and you should either get the bulb replaced or leave it parked. Now, we will take a closer look at the lights all cars should be equipped with. And we will start at the front. The car should have white or yellow dipped headlights that illuminate the road at least 40 meters ahead. White or yellow full beam headlights to illuminate the road at least 100 meters ahead. Orange turn signal, which also acts as the car's hazard warning light. White parking lights, which should always be lit. These are also known as front marker lights. And then, all cars should have daytime running lights. Both dipped headlights and curve and fog lights can act as daytime running lights, but many cars today have their own approved lights that works as this. At the rear, the car should be equipped with the following lighting equipment. Red taillights that should be lit if the lighting conditions require it. These lights are also known as rear marker lights. Red brake lights that are clearly brighter than the taillights when you brake. Orange turn signals. These still also function as hazard warning lights. White registration plate lights that light up your license plate so that it can be read in the dark. Red reflexes. In addition to this, many of today's cars are also equipped with white or yellow reversing lights, but these are not mandatory. Curve lights and fog lights have also become standard in most modern cars, but these are also not mandatory. In traffic, you get almost all information through your sense of sight. What you should know is that it has some limitations and that you can't always trust it. Trying to assess the distance to oncoming drivers can be difficult. The same goes for their speed. We have a tendency to think that they are further away and that they drive slower than they really are. And that can become dangerous when we are going to turn left in a junction. It is even harder to judge correctly when the oncoming vehicle is small and far away. Now that you know, it should be easier to make a good judgment. It can be difficult to assess your own speed as well. Driving at high speeds on a boring stretch of road for a longer period of time will trick your brain into thinking you are going slower than you actually are. This is called speed blindness, and is particularly important to be aware of when you are about to take off from a high-speed road. Check your speedometer often, and look to your sides to recalibrate your sense of speed. Another thing that happens at higher speeds is what we can call tunnel vision. This occurs when your eye's field of view is restricted, and we no longer see what happens in our peripheral view. If you are experiencing this, lower your speed until you feel you have control. For the following demonstration, we're going to need a crash test dummy, because this is dangerous. We are going to demonstrate why you shouldn't let things lie around in your car freely when you are driving. We start by filling the back seat with stuff, each piece weighing 3 kilos. The car sets a pace of 50 kilometers an hour. And then the car crashes, straight into a brick wall. The crash test dummy was using a seat belt, so in a modern car like this, the impact itself shouldn't be the biggest worry. When we watch the rerun of the crash from the inside of the car, we see that every single object suddenly becomes a deadly projectile. Some of the objects hits the dummy with a force of up to 100 kilos. This is why you always need to secure your things properly. Safety first. Practice driving requires that you are at least 16 years old and have completed the basic traffic course. You must also bring a valid ID while driving. Before driving, you must be physically and mentally fit to drive, meaning that you are alert, clear-minded, and refreshed. However, you can't drive alone. You must have a supervising driver present. The supervising driver must be at least 25 years old and have had their driving license for the past 5 years. The supervising driver must be physically and mentally fit and clear-minded. The supervising driver is actually the one who is legally responsible while you are practicing driving. While you are driving, your car must be labeled with a large red L on the back. This informs other drivers that you are new to driving and to give you some extra space and care on the road. Your car should also be equipped with an extra mirror, which gives the supervising driver a great overview of the current traffic situation behind you. Here are some final tips. Practice as much as possible. On the day of the practical driving test, your examiner will notice quickly if you are comfortable behind a wheel. Good luck with your practice driving.
Maybe you're not taking the practical driving test anytime soon. But there is one thing you should start with straight away. And that is to practice driving. A lot. Statistics show a high correlation between the lack of driving experience and accident risk in traffic. So before the big day of your test, you need to practice, practice, practice. The Norwegian Public Roads Administration wants you to practice at least 140 hours. So grab yourself a supervising driver and drive to the local store, to the beach, to the shopping mall, and to the cabin. This gives you time to become more experienced, and you eventually learn to drive with lower risk. Something your driving examiner surely will notice. This is the pyramid of authority, and it determines what presides over what in traffic. In the bottom of the pyramid, we find traffic regulations. The obligation to give way to traffic from the right is a classic example of a traffic regulation. In the next tier, we find signs and road markings. In this junction, the obligation to give way to traffic from the right is trumped by the give way sign. In the tier above, we find traffic lights. When there are traffic lights in a junction, you follow these instead of the give way rule or the give way sign. On top, we find police. If there is a police officer in the junction, follow the officer's instructions regardless of what traffic lights, traffic signs and traffic rules dictate.
It's quite easy to be confused by all these words. So let's do a little quiz to see what you remember. What is this? Pavement, bicycle lane, or a footpath and cycle track? It is a footpath and cycle track. Unlike pavements and potential bicycle lanes, it is clearly separated from the main road. What would you call this? Carriageway or driving lane? It is a carriageway, which again consists of several driving lanes. It is easy to mix the two up. The road shoulder, at the very edge, is not considered a part of the carriageway. According to the traffic rules, what do we call this? A traffic island, right? Nope, it's a crossroad. But this is a traffic island. And finally, do you remember the difference between longitudinal and transverse markings? These are transverse markings, and these are longitudinal.
One thing is to talk about the obligation to give way and trying to explain it in an ebook, but practicing it is something entirely different. In our give way game, you can practice various give way situations ranging from easy to very hard. So let's take a look at the different rules we've examined here. For car A to not interfere with car B, it must give way because of the priority to the right rule. This rule is somewhat a fundamental principle of giving way. Here, car A must also give way, because by turning left, it ends up with the motorcycle on its right side. Priority to the right rule applies. As you might remember from the pyramid of authority, traffic signs take precedence over traffic rules. So voila, the give way sign overrules the priority to the right rule. It is car B that must give way to avoid being a hindrance. Here B comes from the right, and no traffic sign, but it is coming from a parking lot. So it is the one that must avoid hindering A. This is thus one of the many exceptions to the give way rules, and of course, we also have all the other instances of giving way, such as when the roads are too narrow, a bus exiting a bus stop, pedestrians crossing and so on.
Hey, wait a minute. That last one, who the heck has to give way there? Doesn't everyone have an obligation to give way in that situation?
Yep, that is the correct observation. So here, they have to cooperate to determine among themselves who goes first. But indeed, everyone must give way.
Stopping distance consists of two things: the reaction distance and braking distance. The braking distance is affected by many factors: road grip and weather, tire quality, the vehicle's weight, and your speed. The reaction length is much easier to deal with. It is only affected by your reaction time and speed. Look. At 40 kilometers an hour, the reaction length is 11 meters in 1 second. If you only use half of that time to react, the reaction length will also be cut in half. That is 5.5 meters in 0.5 seconds. If you double the speed now to 80, the reaction length will double, and we are back to a reaction length of 11 meters. Let us calculate the reaction distance of this car. It is going 60 kilometers per hour, and the driver needs 2 seconds to react. First of all, divide the speed with 3.6 to find meters per second, which is 16.67. Then we'll multiply by 2, which was the reaction time, and find the reaction distance. It is 33 meters.
Proper road grip is essential when you're driving. Without road grip, you will lose control of the car and slide off the road in a sharp curve or down a steep hill. There are a number of forces that will affect a car's road grip, and knowing about these will help you regain control over your vehicle. On one hand, we have the frictional forces. They determine the grip between the surface and the tires. Good tires equals better road grip, and if the road is dry, even better road grip. On the other hand, both weight and speed will affect road grip. They are both part of the car's kinetic energy. If one of them goes up, the kinetic energy increases and the road grip decreases. So slow down to ensure sufficient road grip before a sharp curve. And maybe change to winter tires? Because winter is coming.
In Norway, we have both yellow and white road markings. Yellow road markings separate lanes going in opposite directions, while white road markings separate lanes that go in the same direction. Let's take a closer look at the lines themselves. A line with short streaks with large spaces in between is a lane line. They are used on stretches of the road when you have good visibility and overview of the road. It can be crossed if conditions permit it. A line with long streaks with small spaces in between is a warning line. They can be crossed, but you must be careful. An unbroken streak is a prohibitory line, and it cannot be crossed. Prohibitory lines can be used in pairs as shown here, which we call double prohibitory lines. Two lines together are combined lines. You should adjust your driving to the line closest to you. You drive according to the prohibitory line, while oncoming traffic drives according to the warning line. Now the road markings go into a hatched area. As with the prohibitory line, crossing this area is also strictly prohibited. The road divides into several lanes in our direction. The arrows in the lanes show which direction the lanes are heading in at the next intersection. If you are going straight ahead, you must therefore choose the left lane. Here, the road markings have changed to a dividing line, with equally long lines and spaces, and it is used to distinguish between different types of lanes in the same direction. For example, bicycle lanes, or in this case, public transport lanes. The white solid line on both sides is an unbroken edge line. On stretches where the carriageway is narrower than 6 meters, road markings in the middle of the road are no longer used, and the edge becomes broken with equally long lines and spaces.
Okay, let's have a look at how you should drive through roundabouts one more time, because people think this is difficult. There is no written regulation about roundabouts, but both the road administration and the police agree. Drive like you would through a junction. That means turning on indicator lights before you enter, and choosing a correct position in the lane. The first car is going right, and keeps the indicator lights on through the roundabout. The second car is going straight ahead, and turns on the indicator lights when it passes the right exit. The last car turns on the left indicator lights, chooses a position to the left, and turns on right indicator now. When there is more than one lane in or out of the roundabout, the cars have to choose lanes based on which lane they wish to leave the roundabout from.
To ensure that everyone in traffic behaves and abides by the rules, the police have a set of public responses they can use to crack down on unwanted behavior and rule violations. The police can respond with fines, penalties, or imprisonment. The severity of the response is determined by how serious the violation is, and, not least, with regard to road safety. You receive a fee for minor violations, such as improper parking, forgetting to wear a seatbelt, or insufficient tread depth on tires. Legally speaking, this is not a penalty, does not give you demerit points, and is not too costly. For some violations, fees can also be imposed by the Norwegian Public Roads Administration or municipal parking wardens. For minor rule violations, such as running a red light or speeding, you are usually offered an on-the-spot fine. If you accept it, you get some demerit points on your driving license and a fine to pay. But you avoid charges, interrogation, and waiting time, and the case is considered closed. If you disagree, you can choose to refuse the fine, but then, as with more serious rule violations, you will be reported and the case may be investigated by the police. It often eventually results in a judgment with a larger fine and demerit points on the driving license. For serious violations of the rules, or if your actions have caused significant personal injury, you may risk imprisonment. If you receive a suspended sentence, you are not imprisoned, but other conditions may apply, such as being imprisoned if you commit another offense during a probation period. An unconditional prison sentence means no conditions. The sentence must be served in prison. In addition to financial penalties and imprisonment, you may also lose the right to drive for a period and will have to retake the driving test. Your vehicle may also be deregistered and impounded.
There are many different types of trailers: open or closed, boat trailers, car trailers, and so on. No matter which trailer you use, you have to properly fasten its load properly so that it doesn't move while you are driving. Do not place the load too far in the front or back. This will affect the vehicle's ability to drive properly. Place the load as much as possible over the wheels. The load must be secured 100% from front to back and 50% on its sides. Use the solid ratchet straps, and if the load is heavy, it should be secured against the trailer under the railing. If you are transporting loose material such as foliage, sand, or dirt, you should use a tarp.
As you may have already realized, you can't just toss your load wherever it suits in the car. You need to secure it properly. Place heavy, large items like suitcases and bags in the trunk, as low and as far forward as possible. Then, lay the lighter items on top, but no higher than the headrests. Remember to secure pets too. Ideally, avoid having loose items like laptops, phones, and soda bottles rolling around in the cabin, as they can become hazardous in a sudden stop. Place small objects under the seats or in the glove compartment if there's space. When loading a trailer, ensure not to place the load too far forward or back, as this will negatively impact the driving properties. Position the load as much over the wheels as possible. The load should be secured 100% forward and 50% to the sides. Use sturdy straps. If the load is heavy, it should be secured against the trailer's sides. If you're transporting loose materials like leaves, gravel, and similar, you should use a tarp. A level crossing is signaled with this sign if it is unsecured, or with this sign if it is secured with a barrier. The speed limit on the section determines how far before the hazard the sign is placed. If speed limit is 70 km per hour or higher, the sign is placed 150 to 250 meters from the hazard. 60 km per hour or lower, the sign is placed between 50 to 150 meters from the hazard. Distance markers are often used to warn you that you are approaching the hazard. The first distance marker has 3 stripes and stands together with the hazard sign. The 3 stripes warn that you have 3/3 of the distance left to the level crossing. The second distance marker has 2 stripes and warns that you have 2/3 of the distance left to the level crossing. The third and final distance marker has 1 stripe, and now you are only 1/3 away from the level crossing. The level crossing itself is signaled with railway track, either for single or multiple tracks, and has a flashing light signal where white means you can pass and red means you must stop. In Norway, there are 9 different groups of road signs. Hazard signs are triangular with black symbols on a white background with a red border. Common signs are moose, dangerous curves, crossroads, or uneven road. Priority signs have different shapes and colors, but the most important ones are give way, priority road, and stop. The next group, we have prohibitory signs, and they are circular with black symbols on a white background with a red border. In this group, we find speed limit and no motor vehicles. The signs for no stopping and no parking have blue instead of a white background. The mandatory signs are all circular and feature white symbols on a blue background. They either show which lane you must use or on what side you must pass the sign. Informative signs are rectangular and most of them are blue. In this group, we find signs that inform you about motorway, bus and taxi lane, one-way or pedestrian crossing. Signs that inform you about the lanes are usually white with black and red symbols. Group 6 are service signs. They are rectangular but come in different colors. Blue signs inform about first aid or different types of service, while brown signs inform about attractions and activities. In Group 7, we find direction signs. These signs can give you information about destinations, lane orientation, route, or exits. The signs in Group 8 are called supplementary signs, and they are always used together with signs from the other group. Supplementary signs can, for instance, give information about distance, time, or stretch. In the last category, we find marker signs. They tell something about the road's onward course, or warn of obstacles near or on the road. Border posts and traffic cones also belong to this group.
Your stopping distance is a combination of two things: your reaction distance and your braking distance. Reaction distance is quite easy to relate to, for it is really only influenced by two things: the speed you are driving and the time it takes for you to react. That is, your reaction time. Braking distance can be a bit more complicated, as many factors affect the outcome: road grip and weather, the quality of the tires, how hard you brake, the weight of the car, and the speed you are traveling. Calculating your reaction distance is actually straightforward. Just multiply your speed with your reaction time. At 40 kilometers an hour, the reaction distance is 11.1 meters per second. We find this by dividing the speed by 3.6. Now, if you double the speed to 80 an hour, the reaction distance becomes 22.2 meters per second. It is double the length. Okay, let's bring the speed down to 40 again. But now we double the reaction time to 2 seconds. Once again, we get a reaction distance of 22.2 meters. Now you know everything about calculating reaction distance. When we do calculations with braking distance, we need a braking distance to start with. Let's say it is 2 meters and 20 kilometers an hour on dry tarmac. Now, if the surface changes, this affects braking distance. On wet surfaces, braking distances might double in size, up to 4 meters in this case, and up to 4 times as long on icy winter roads. That is 8 meters. What if you increase your speed? When the speed changes, the braking distance becomes much, much longer. Memorize the following, and it becomes easier to calculate. Double your speed to 40 kilometers an hour, and the braking distance quadruples and becomes 8 meters. Triple your speed to 60 kilometers an hour, then the braking distance is multiplied by 9 and becomes 18 meters. If you quadruple your speed to 80 kilometers an hour, the braking distance is multiplied by 16. It becomes a whopping 32 meters long.
In Norway, there are 2 general speed limits. In densely populated areas like here and here, the speed limit is 50 kilometers per hour. Outside densely populated areas like here and here, the speed limit is 80 kilometers per hour. The idea is that it shouldn't be necessary to use a traffic sign for this. You should be able to observe where the speed limit is 50 and where it is 80. Sometimes, a stretch of road needs other speed limits, and this is shown on speed limit traffic signs. from 30 kilometers per hour, all the way up to 110 kilometers per hour. When the speed limit reverts back to the general speed limit, this is done in two ways. In densely populated areas, a speed limit sign of 50 kilometers per hour is shown. Outside densely populated areas, this is done with the sign end of speed limit. And take notice, that sign is never used in densely populated areas. So when you see this traffic sign, the speed limit is 80, and not 50, which is a common misconception. And remember, the speed limit on a traffic sign doesn't automatically give you the right to keep that speed. You need to factor in traffic, the weather, and the road surface, and keep a speed that is safe and sensible.
Now, let's use everything we've learned so far and calculate the stopping distance. We'll continue using the car from the earlier examples. The reaction distance in 60 was 33 meters, and the braking distance was 18 meters. When we combine those two, we get the stopping distance in 60 kilometers per hour, and that is 51 meters.
But wait a minute. What if the car decreases speed to 30? And the reaction time decreases to 1 second.
Let's do the reaction distance first. Speed divided by 3.6 times reaction time gives us 8.3 meters reaction distance. Now, we need to find the braking distance. 30 kilometers per hour is only half of 60, so speed decreases by 0.5. The square of 0.5 is 0.25, which we multiply by 18 meters, and get 4.5 meter braking distance. Finally, we add reaction distance and braking distance together, and get the stopping distance in 30 kilometers per hour, and that is 12.8 meters. Roundabouts are often used instead of crossroads as they effectively direct traffic. In a roundabout, you must always give way to traffic coming from the left. When driving into a roundabout, you should always adjust your speed in advance. Ease off the accelerator, check your rear-view mirrors, and slow down. Entering a roundabout at lower speeds improves safety and accessibility. Approaching the roundabout, we want to proceed straight on. We position ourselves clearly to the right and maintain a good overview of traffic approaching from the left. Try to maintain a speed that prevents you from having to stop. Stay as far right as possible throughout the entire roundabout. Indicate right to inform oncoming traffic that you are exiting the roundabout. Supplementary signs are one of those things that people sometimes seem to mess up. Even though the purpose of the supplementary signs is to elaborate upon the main sign, it is still important to understand them. Look at these supplementary signs. Many people mess up a little bit here. The sign on the left is called stretch, and it informs you when the main sign is applicable and when it ends. There is a danger of moose on the road. The danger starts in 100 meters and lasts for 900 meters. The supplementary sign on the right is called distance, and tells you when the main sign becomes valid. The speed limit will change to 50 kilometers an hour and 150 meters. You also need to know when the sign underneath isn't a supplementary sign. The sign underneath does not say anything about no parking. No parking applies to everyone. In addition, vehicles weighing more than 3 tons per axle are not allowed to drive here at all.
In traffic, you should always be considerate, alert, and cautious. But how do you know if you are? Well, let's take a look. Being considerate means taking into account the other people in traffic. Simply put, ensuring that you cooperate with each other. A classic example of this is allowing someone who has to give way to you to go before you. By letting this camper go before you, you are being considerate and you contribute to the overall flow of traffic. Alert means being attentive, that you pay close attention to the right things in traffic and don't get so easily distracted by all sorts of other things. For example, when you are about to turn at a crossroads, you must not forget to keep an eye on traffic in your blind spots. Cautious is the same as being careful. This means you take it easy in traffic and try to avoid dangerous situations. People who are cautious in traffic know well that it is dangerous to drive fast past a bus at a bus stop. You need to slow down so that you actually have time to stop if someone suddenly crosses the road from behind the bus.
Some of the things you learn about in this course may feel a bit irrelevant and very old-fashioned. Why do you need to know about driving stick in an eco-friendly fashion in a gas-powered car? Soon enough, everybody will be driving electric cars that can practically do anything anyway. Well, don't forget that you are getting your license for every kind of car. Powerful cars that run on gasoline. Diesel-powered cars from way back. Brand new cars you plug in the wall. Hybrid cars powered by both batteries and gas. Even hydrogen-powered cars. And the technical standard varies enormously in Norway's car fleet. From brand new cars with the latest in technology, to old muscle cars from the 60s where you can repair everything yourself. You can even drive cars that are more than a century old. According to the curriculum, you should know about all these things. Ideal gear for different speeds. How cars affect the environment. How to eco-drive. And how to perform a safety check on virtually any car.
When you get a license in Class B today, you are allowed to drive a car that can weigh a maximum of 3,500 kilograms with up to 8 passengers. You can also drive a moped, a four-wheeled motorcycle, a tracked vehicle, or tractors and motorized equipment with certain speed or weight limitations. If you got your license before 2013, you can drive a three-wheeled motorcycle. If you got it before July 2006, you can drive a snowmobile. And if you got your license sometime before 2005, you can drive tractors and motorized equipment without any speed or weight limitations. Class A is for motorcycles and also gives you the right to drive Class AM, which is moped. For heavy vehicles, Class C is for trucks, and Class D is for buses. With Class C, you can also drive C1, which is light truck, and with Class D, you can drive D1, which is minibus. But remember, to take any of these heavier classes, you must have Class B first. For many of these classes, you can also take an additional class to drive with a trailer of a certain size. These classes get an E added to the class name. This applies to cars, trucks, light trucks, buses, and minibuses. Lastly, we also have Class T, which is for tractors, and Class S, which is for snowmobiles. You don't need Class B beforehand to take these classes.
Have you thought about why there are different colors on the dashboard lights? Think of it as traffic lights. Red means stop. Something is wrong with the car, and if you go on, you might damage it. Orange means watch out. You can continue driving, but you should get the car fixed as soon as possible. Green and blue lights gives information about active systems, so you don't need to worry about these. Do yourself a favor and check the car's manual to learn what the different symbols on the dashboard of your car indicate. As the driver, it is your responsibility to know that the car is safe to use. That means that you have to check the car before you go for a drive. That you make sure all luggage is stored safely. That you stop at once if you notice something is wrong while driving. And that you don't continue unless the car is fixed. Remember that you cannot let others borrow the car if you know something is wrong with it. And don't let other people borrow your car unless you know that they actually have a driver's license and that they are fit to drive. Let's take a look at how your brain works when processing traffic in real time. We'll divide the process in 4 phases. The first thing you do is to sense something. Your senses register stimulus, but your brain needs time to process the stimulus for it to make any sense. The next phase is perceiving the stimulus. Your brain interprets what it senses, and you understand what is happening. Now that you see the whole picture, your brain can start deciding what to do in this situation. This is the third phase of the driving process. Maybe you should brake, turn the wheel to one of the sides, or perhaps you should flash the headlights. When the brain finally has made up its mind, it sends signals to the body which then performs an action. This is the last phase.
In traffic, you have to look after those around you. It's an important element when cooperating in the traffic. Be sure to take extra precaution when passing vulnerable road users, like children, the elderly, bicyclists, people on horses, and handicapped people. They have little or no physical protection should an accident occur. Children and animals may behave unpredictably, so watch out. Motorcyclists and mopedists have somewhat better protection. But make sure you keep a safe distance to them in traffic, And pay close attention to your blind spots. Small road users have a tendency to disappear from your view and attention. Let heavy vehicles go before you in junctions, even though they should give you the right of way, as this will aid the general traffic flow. And remember to always give way to a bus emerging from a bus stop when the speed limit is 60 kilometers per hour or lower. And then there is trams, and emergency vehicles responding to an emergency. You should always give way to those.
When driving, you must constantly gather information about the traffic situation. As much as 90% of this information is taken in through sight. That is why it is important to know how to observe. To help you with this, we have the 5 rules of observation. 1. Look far ahead. When you look far ahead, you are able to identify traffic situations earlier. Make sure you look all the way to the end of the street, instead of focusing on the passing car. On country roads, the speed is higher, and you should try to look past the car in front of you, at least 400 meters ahead. 2. Keep your eyes moving. Don't fixate too long. Keep your eyes moving and look to the sides. Check right in front of your cars and check the edge of the road. Check your mirrors and don't forget about your blind spots. 3. Hit the big picture. By looking far ahead and keeping your eyes moving, you get the big picture. Use the overview you get to try to predict how the traffic will play out the next 10 seconds. And use this to adapt your driving. 4. Be seen and understood. Observation goes both ways, so you should always drive in a manner that makes your intentions clear. This way the other road users are able to anticipate your actions and can adjust to them. 5. Always look for a way out. You can't always predict what is going to happen in traffic, but you should expect the unexpected. Adjusting to a sensible speed and keeping enough distance will give you time to react when something, whoa. It truly is important to know how to observe. Your sight is the most important sense in traffic. Therefore, you need to know the limitations of your sight and learn to keep your eyes moving. First of all, humans are quite bad at judging distances in traffic. And the speed of others in traffic. The further away, the more we misjudge. Usually we believe people drive slower and are further away than they actually are, and that can be dangerous. When speed increases, your field of vision becomes smaller, and you must keep your eyes moving to the sides to get an overview of what is happening. Higher speeds over time can also cause speed blindness, which means that, after a while, it feels as if the speed is lower than it actually is. And that is also dangerous.
Listen up. Here are 4 great tips to help you prepare for your theory exam. Number 1. Make sure you read everything from the curriculum and take a lot of tests. If you actually understand the subject, you won't fail your exam. Number 2. Read the questions carefully. Make sure you don't misinterpret the question just because you are reading too fast and not understanding what it actually says. Flunking the test because you were sloppy is extremely irritating and can actually easily be avoided. Number 3. Take your time. This makes it much easier to follow the previous tip as well. On your exam you get 90 minutes, so make sure you use the time, and use it wisely. Number 4. Practice traffic signs. A lot. It is hard to predict which themes you will get on your exam, but you will certainly get a lot of questions about traffic signs.
All tires have markings that provide information about the tire's dimensions and capacity. However, it's not easy to guess what the markings mean, so let's go through it. The first number, 225, represents the width of the tire in millimeters. So from here to here measures 225 millimeters. The next number, 50, indicates the height of the tire, expressed as a percentage of the tire's width. 50% of 225 millimeters is 112.5 mm, so the tire's height is 112.5 millimeters. The letter R indicates that this is a radial tire. The alternative is D for diagonal tires, but those are almost no longer used. 17 is the diameter of the rim, given in inches. So from here to here measures 17 inches. 94 is the tire's load index, and W is the tire's speed rating. You will need to refer to charts if you want to know what these two indexes mean. In this case, 94 indicates a maximum load capacity of 670 kilograms, and W in the speed rating corresponds to a maximum speed of 270 kilometers an hour.
If you're going for a ride, you have to be fit to drive. Whether or not you actually are fit to drive is your responsibility, and it is up to you to make that decision. Let's start with the easiest decision. If you are in some way under the influence of alcohol, strong medication, or some form of an illegal substance, then you can't drive, even though you might feel ready. A more difficult decision, perhaps, is to judge for yourself whether you are in a condition to drive or not. This is something you always have to consider when you feel sick, tired, scared, or angry. These conditions may negatively affect your ability to make good decisions in traffic and might impair your senses. So, if you're feeling unsure, you could let somebody else drive, or maybe just stay home. In daylight, you can see far ahead and easily spot pedestrians even from a distance of 500 meters away. However, in the dark, you rely on the car's lights and the clothing of pedestrians to spot them. With dipped headlights, you can spot a person wearing a reflective vest from 150 meters away. Without the vest, it may be difficult to see the person before it's too late, especially if they are wearing dark clothes. There are situations where you transition quickly from daylight to darkness, such as when driving into a poorly lit tunnel. It can take up to 30 minutes for your eyes to fully adjust to the darkness in such cases. On the other hand, when coming out of a dark tunnel, your vision adjusts within about 30 seconds. It's important to adjust your speed according to your vision. This will give you enough stopping time to react to any obstacles or pedestrians on the road. You're going to drive to the left in the forthcoming roundabout. Turn on our left turn indicators and position yourself to the left well before reaching the roundabout to show other road users where you are headed. Check for your duty to give way, drive around the roundabout, and signal to the right when you are exiting the roundabout. This informs other road users that you are leaving the roundabout. Here, we're taking the first exit at the upcoming roundabout. We follow the same rules as always when going right. Indicate in good time before reaching the roundabout to show the other road users that we are turning right. Try to adjust your speed so that you adhere to your give way obligations to the ones coming from the left. Take the right turn when the road is clear. When you are approaching a junction where the traffic light is green, pay close attention to it. Soon enough it'll turn yellow. But don't break in panic if you're practically in the junction. It might be safer to finish through it. The car behind can stop comfortably and will have to wait. The light turns red and crossing traffic can drive through the junction. After a while, the yellow light will light up while the red light remains lit, and you can start preparing to get ready, because soon the light will turn green again. If the traffic light is flashing yellow, you have to follow traffic signs and traffic rules. And the give way sign means you have to give this bus on your left the right of way.
There are over 1,000 tunnels in Norway. And sooner or later, you're going to drive through one of them. Adjust your speed, and take it easy as you approach a tunnel, especially if you're feeling uneasy about driving through tunnels. Remember, inside it might be dark, the road surface can be damp, and in bad weather, animals may be seeking shelter. Once inside, continue driving carefully, keep a safe distance to other road users and use your full beam headlights if possible, but avoid dazzling other drivers. You should reconsider any plans to overtake others, and don't make a U-turn, unless it actually is allowed and you really have to. Okay, let's talk about tunnel safety. No red lights blinking outside the entrance means it is safe to enter. Should anything happen once you're inside, try to keep calm and remember the following. Do you need to make a stop? Do so in an emergency lay-by. Sudden queue in front? Stop well ahead. If necessary, use the emergency phone and fire extinguisher. This will set off the fire alarm at the road traffic central. Leave the key in the ignition if you have to leave the car, so that others can move it. Run to the nearest emergency exit.
The tire tread refers to the part of the tire that makes contact with the road surface. Over time, the tire tread will slowly wear down evenly. Uneven wear is usually caused by a problem with the tires or the car, and the pattern of this wear gives us an indicator of what is causing the problem. If your tires are wearing down rapidly in the center of the tread, you may be driving on tires that are consistently overinflated. In contrast to center wear, edge wear may occur when tires are underinflated. If you notice that there are random smooth spots on your tire or little dips in the tread wear, the culprit could be your vehicle's suspension system. One-sided wear on your tires may be caused by wheel misalignment. Large patches of wear, like shown here, could be a sign of extensive braking with locked wheels. You might have heard this expression before, the devil is in the details. Well, sometimes this also applies to our questions. We'll use this question as an example. When we ask if you must give way for the bus, over half of the students answer yes. Since the bus's indicators are blinking, many students think that they must give way. However, if you look a little bit closer, you will see that you are in a 70 km/h zone, which means that it is the bus that must give way for you. But do not get confused now. Sometimes we get the simplest questions wrong. The answer might be easier than you think. Take a look here. In this example, we ask who you have to give way to if you are going to the right in the junction. Only 1 out of 4 answers this correctly. Over 50% think you must give way for traffic coming from either the left or the right. The correct answer is that you don't have to give way for anyone here. Maybe the poor visibility on the right-hand side makes people unsure. The common thing with these questions is that you really have to take your time to read the question and alternatives carefully, and especially study the picture closely. You need to make sure that you really understand the question.
But isn't this a trick question?
No, I would not say that. Just because you have to concentrate a bit more. You need to concentrate like this on some of the questions that you get on the theory test as well. And we want to prepare you for that. You can find a lot of information about your car in the vehicle registration certificate, but you only really need Section 8. Maximum authorized mass is how much your car can weigh, including car, passengers, luggage, and everything. Maximum axle load says something about how this weight should be distributed between front and back axle. Unladen weight, including driver, is how much just the car plus driver weigh together. A driver is always set to 75 kilos. Permissible payload with passengers included is maybe self-explanatory. This is how much everything, with the car plus driver excluded, can weigh. Permissible trailer weight is the car and the trailer together. Trailer and car might have capacity for more on their own, but the total can't exceed the total permissible trailer weight. The two next rows, permissible trailer weight with or without brakes, set a limit for how heavy the trailer can be. Maximum ton weight says something about how much force the trailer can press down on the car's tow bar. You have to check the same row in the trailer's certificate as well. The lowest of the two values is the one to use, so if it says 75 kilos, which is lower than 80, then use 75 kilos. The last row is roof weight limit, which sets a limit for how much roof box, ski rack and such with the load included can weigh. In traffic, we have so-called traffic stops. This refers to when you have to come to a halt because of the traffic situation. Like when you're stopping for a pedestrian at a red light or get stuck in a traffic jam. However, these rules don't apply if you've pulled over to take a call or drop a passenger, as these stops are not caused by the traffic situation. What then if there is a no stopping sign here? Well, if you have to stop due to a traffic situation, it's perfectly fine. But otherwise, stopping is prohibited. There are some traffic rules that people either remember incorrectly or just partially understand. For example, many believe that overtaking is always prohibited at junctions. The traffic rules regarding overtaking clearly states this: overtaking is prohibited right before or at an intersection. But if you continue reading, you will quickly see that there are many significant exceptions to this rule. For example, you are allowed to overtake others at a junction when you are driving on a priority road, or a road with several driving lanes going in the same direction. You can also overtake someone on the right-hand side of a vehicle that is going to the left at the junction. It is another common misunderstanding that it is never allowed to overtake in a tunnel. Well, unless neither road markings, traffic signs, poor visibility, or lack of space is making it difficult. Overtaking is technically legal here. It is actually legal to make a U-turn in a tunnel as well, but this is not recommended unless absolutely necessary. So remember, although overtaking might be legal, the basic rules of traffic must always take precedence. Each driver shall show consideration and be alert and cautious so that he does not cause damage or risk, and so that other traffic is not unnecessarily obstructed or inconvenienced. The subject of overtaking is a complex one that rightly receives a lot of attention. This is for good reason, as an ill-executed overtaking move can be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, but isn't there like a formula for overtaking or something?
What? Huh. Well, it doesn't make much sense to use formulas here. There are indeed a few different ones, but none of them are that helpful when you are actually in a car and decide to overtake someone. It's important to know that if you're going to overtake, you need at least 3 times the free stretch of road as the overtaking distance. There cannot be any road users in that free stretch of road, which consists of the actual stretch of road you use in overtaking, an equally long stretch for oncoming traffic, and a stretch of road in the middle used as a security buffer. Attempting to overtake when you can't see 3 times the overtaking distance is risky, for example, in an unclear curve like this. So remember, don't overtake unless you know that you have at least 3 times the overtaking distance at your disposal. A speed limit is just that, a limit. If you go 90 kilometers an hour in an 80 zone, you break the limit and, consequently, also the law. But what this traffic sign doesn't tell you is what speed you should keep within the speed limit, because that isn't necessarily 80. The police can give you a fine for speeding, even though you were driving well below the speed limit. Within the speed limit, another set of rules apply as well. You have to adjust your speed according to the conditions. If it is foggy weather, slippery roads, or lots of curves, you will have to drive slower. And you also need to know that you can stop in time should something suddenly happen right in front of you, an unexpected cue, a crossing moose or school children emerging from behind a bus. It is your responsibility to keep the correct speed. Sometimes you'll see questions where you will be presented with a busy crossroad. The task is to determine the order in which they should drive, or who has the right of way. The rules for right of way are simple enough. However, many people struggle with these tasks. The trick is to take some time and view the crossroad from the perspective of each road user, as this will make it easier to find the correct answer. Let's take an example. In this particular crossroad, both car A and car B are going straight ahead, while car C is turning left. Who has the right of way? Well, first we need to check if any right of way or priority signs affect the situation. There are none in this case, so let's proceed. Car A must give way to car B, as car B is coming from the right. Car B must give way to car C, as car C is coming from its right side. Car C must give way to car A, as it is turning, and car A is on its right side. Everyone has to give way to someone. If we add some traffic signs, the situation suddenly changes. Now car A no longer has to give way to anyone and can go first. Then car C follows. And lastly, car B.
Who should go first when everyone had to give way at the same time?
Well, that's a good question. It simply requires cooperation and common sense. As soon as one of the drivers takes the initiative, the situation usually resolves itself smoothly. Who is actually responsible for ensuring that the car is in a safe and compliant condition? Well, as the owner of the car, it is your responsibility to ensure that the car meets these requirements when you are driving it. If someone is borrowing your car, it is your responsibility to provide a car that meets the requirements of safe and compliant condition. It is also your responsibility to ensure that the borrower meets the requirements to drive a car. That is, she is fit enough to drive, and most importantly, that she has a valid driver's license. But now the new driver takes over all responsibility. She must ensure herself that the car is in a safe and compliant condition before driving. And if something happens during the drive, it is the driver's responsibility.